I wasn't meant to hear it. That much was clear from the hushed tones, the careful glances toward the hallway, the way they'd positioned themselves in my kitchen as if the space itself would keep their secrets. But I have good ears for a 70-year-old man, and the layout of my house. The house I'd lived in for 43 years, the house where I'd raised 3 children, the house where my wife had died 5 years ago, carried sound in unexpected ways. I'd come downstairs for a glass of water. It was late Thursday evening, nearly 11 o'clock, and I'd been reading in bed when my throat had gone dry. My son Marcus and his wife Elena were visiting for the weekend, or so they'd said. They'd arrived unannounced on Wednesday afternoon with 2 large suitcases and a story about their apartment complex doing emergency repairs. Could they stay for a few days? Of course, I'd said. Of course they could. They were family. I was padding down the hallway in my slippers, the old floorboards creaking slightly under my weight despite my attempts at stealth, when I heard Marcus's voice drifting from the kitchen. Something in his tone made me stop, made me press myself against the wall just outside the doorway, made me listen. "I'm telling you, it'll be fine," Marcus was saying, his voice carrying that particular blend of confidence and dismissiveness I'd come to recognize over the years. "Dad's old. He won't say no. He won't even think to say no. He'll let us stay as long as we want." "Are you sure?" Elena's voice was skeptical, but interested. "What if he asks when we're leaving?" Marcus laughed. Actually laughed, like the idea was absurd. "He won't, and even if he does, we'll just keep saying soon until he stops asking. Trust me, I know how to handle him. He's too polite to push back. Too old school, too afraid of conflict." My hand tightened on the wall. My heart had started beating faster, harder, each thump echoing in my ears. "Plus," Marcus continued, and I could hear him opening my refrigerator, helping himself to something. "Where else would we go? The lease on our apartment is up in 3 weeks. We'd have to find a new place, pay first and last month's rent, deal with deposits. This is so much easier." "So we're just moving in?" Elena asked. "Like permanently?" "Why not? It's a big house. 4 bedrooms, and he only uses 1. The place is paid off. He's got his pension and his Social Security. He doesn't need all this space." "What about our stuff? All our furniture?" "We'll rent a storage unit for now, bring over what we need gradually. By the time he realizes what's happening, we'll be settled in. And honestly, what's he going to do? Kick out his own son?" Elena giggled. Actually giggled. The sound made my stomach turn. "Free rent, free utilities, free food. Free childcare when we decide to have kids," Marcus added. "Live-in babysitter. It's perfect." "Your dad is going to cook for us and watch our future children?" Elena's voice was delighted. "Oh my God, Marcus, this is genius. Why didn't we think of this sooner?" "Because we were trying to be independent, trying to prove we could make it on our own. But you know what? That's overrated. This is the smart play. This is what successful people do. They leverage their resources." "Your dad isn't a resource," Elena said, but her tone suggested she didn't really believe her own objection. "He's a person. A person with a big empty house and nothing but time on his hands. We'd actually be doing him a favor, giving him purpose, keeping him company. He's probably lonely anyway." I stood in that hallway, my hand still pressed against the wall for support, and felt something inside me shift, crack, break apart like ice under too much weight. They spoke about my home, the place I'd worked 40 years in a machine shop to pay for, like it was a free hotel, like it was unclaimed territory, ripe for occupation. They spoke about me like I was an obstacle to be managed, a resource to be exploited, a convenience to be utilized. Not once did Marcus say, "Let's ask Dad if he'd mind." Not once did Elena suggest maybe we should discuss this with him first. It wasn't even a conversation about asking permission. It was a strategy session for taking what they wanted without my knowledge or consent. I don't know how long I stood there. Long enough for them to move on to other topics, Elena's irritation with her sister, Marcus's complaints about his boss, their shared excitement about a concert they wanted to attend next month with my presumed babysitting services. Long enough for my initial shock to harden into something else, something colder, something more determined. Finally, I turned around and walked quietly back upstairs to my bedroom. I didn't get my water. My throat was still dry, but I had more important things to think about now. I sat on the edge of my bed, the bed I'd shared with my wife for 38 years, the bed where she died peacefully in her sleep 5 years ago while I held her hand, and I thought about my son, Marcus, my middle child, always the clever one, always the charmer, always the one who could talk his way into or out of anything. When he was 8, he'd convinced his teacher that our family dog had eaten his homework, even though we didn't have a dog. When he was 16, he'd talked me into buying him a car by presenting a detailed PowerPoint presentation on how it would actually save the family money. When he was 22 and dropped out of college, he'd spun it as pursuing entrepreneurial opportunities with such conviction that I'd helped him with rent for 6 months while he got established. I'd always seen it as confidence, as intelligence, as ambition. Now, at 70 years old, sitting alone in my bedroom while my son plotted to colonize my house without my permission, I wondered if I'd been blind all along. If what I'd called confidence was actually entitlement. If what I'd called intelligence was actually manipulation. If what I'd called ambition was actually exploitation. My wife would have known what to do. Catherine had always been better at reading people, at seeing through the performances and presentations to the truth underneath. She'd loved Marcus fiercely, but she'd also held him accountable in ways I'd always struggled to do. After she died, I'd softened even more, afraid of conflict, afraid of pushing my children away, afraid of being alone, and Marcus had sensed that fear like a shark sensing blood and water. I pulled out my phone, a newer model that my daughter had insisted I get last year so we could video chat, though Marcus had never once called to video chat in the 11 months I'd owned it, and opened my contacts. I scrolled through the names. Most of them were relics from another era, friends from work who'd retired years ago, neighbors who'd moved away, people who'd attended Catherine's funeral and then slowly drifted out of my orbit, as happens when you're old and your spouse is gone. But there was one name I needed, one person who could help me with what I was beginning to plan. I found it. Jerry Walsh, my neighbor from 3 doors down, retired police officer. We'd been friendly for years, not close friends, but good neighbors, the kind who'd help each other with yard work or bring in each other's garbage cans when someone was out of town. I started typing a text message, then stopped, deleted it. This wasn't a conversation for text. This needed to be done right. Instead, I set an alarm on my phone for 6 a.m., early enough that Marcus and Elena would still be asleep, late enough that Jerry would be awake. He'd always been an early riser from his years on the force. Then I lay back on my bed, still fully dressed, and stared at my ceiling, at the water stain in the corner that I'd been meaning to fix for 3 years, at the ceiling fan that wobbled slightly when it spun because one of the blades had warped, at the smoke detector with its blinking red light, faithfully standing guard against disasters. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I dozed fitfully, waking every hour or so with my mind racing through scenarios, possibilities, consequences. By the time my alarm went off at 6 a.m., I felt more exhausted than I had going to bed, but I also felt something else, clear, determined, done being managed by my own child. I got up, dressed in my usual morning clothes, old jeans, a flannel shirt, my work boots from my machine shop days that were more comfortable than any sneakers I'd ever owned. Then I walked quietly downstairs, past the guest room where Marcus and Elena were still sleeping, past the kitchen where they'd plotted last night, and out my front door. The October morning was cool and crisp. The sun was just beginning to paint the eastern sky in shades of orange and pink. My neighborhood was quiet except for the distant sound of someone's sprinkler system and the chirping of birds I couldn't identify. The Johnsons' cat was sitting on their porch, watching me with the judgmental expression cats always seem to have. I walked 3 doors down to Jerry Walsh's house and knocked. He answered within a minute, already dressed for his morning walk, looking surprised to see me. "Bill, everything okay?" "No," I said honestly. "But it will be. Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Come on in." We sat in his kitchen, and I told him everything. The overheard conversation, the plan to colonize my house, the assumption that I was too old, too weak, too passive to defend my own boundaries. Jerry listened without interrupting, his cop face settling into place, neutral, attentive, processing everything. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "What do you want to do about it?" "I want to teach my son a lesson he should have learned 30 years ago. I want to remind him that respect isn't optional, even with family. Especially with family." Jerry nodded slowly. "You want to let them think they've won and then pull the rug out. Something like that. That's going to cause a scene. Could get ugly." "It's already ugly," I said. "They just don't know I know yet." Jerry studied me for a long moment, then smiled. "Tell me what you need." The text came at 11:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. I was in my garage, pretending to organize tools I'd organized a dozen times before, when my phone buzzed. "Marcus. Hey, Dad. Good news. Found a moving truck for cheap. We're coming by to pick up some more of our stuff from storage. Be there in about an hour. Can you start clearing out the guest room? We're going to need more space. Thanks." I read it 3 times. The casual assumption, the lack of question marks, the thanks at the end, as if I'd already agreed to something I hadn't even been asked about. I didn't respond. Instead, I sent a different text to Jerry. "It's happening. 1 hour." His reply came immediately. "Ready. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Jerry arrived with his nephew Kevin, a locksmith who ran his own business in the next town over. I'd met Kevin once before, at a neighborhood barbecue. Nice kid, maybe 30 years old, professional and discreet. Jerry had vouched for him, said he was someone who could be trusted to be fast and quiet. "Mr. Morrison," Kevin said, shaking my hand. "Uncle Jerry explained the situation. I've got everything we need." "How long will it take?" I asked. "For all the doors, front, back, garage, shed, maybe 45 minutes if we move fast. I brought my partner. We can do 2 at a time." The partner was a young woman named Sarah, competent and efficient. They immediately began surveying my doors, taking measurements, preparing their equipment. "You're sure about this?" Jerry asked me quietly while Kevin and Sarah worked. "Once you start, there's no going back. This is going to blow up your relationship with your son, at least in the short term." "My relationship with my son is already blown up," I said. "He just doesn't know it yet. He thinks I'm too old and weak to stand up for myself. I'm going to prove him wrong." Jerry squeezed my shoulder. "I'll stick around, just in case things get complicated." Marcus and Elena arrived at exactly 12:30 p.m., just as they'd said. But they didn't arrive in their small sedan. They arrived in a 26-foot moving truck, the kind you rent for major relocations, the kind you use when you're moving all your furniture, all your belongings, all your life. My stomach dropped. This wasn't about picking up some stuff from storage. This was a full invasion. I watched from my living room window as Marcus hopped down from the driver's seat, grinning like he just pulled off the deal of the century. Elena climbed down from the passenger side, already on her phone, already organizing. Within minutes, 2 more vehicles pulled up. Elena's sister and brother-in-law in an SUV, and Marcus's friend Tyler in a pickup truck. A moving crew. They'd brought a moving crew. Marcus bounded up to my front door and let himself in. He still had his key, of course. I'd given it to him years ago for emergencies. Apparently this qualified as an emergency in his mind. "Dad! Hey, hope you got my text?" Marcus called out, his voice bright and cheerful. "Sorry for the short notice, but we got a great deal on the truck rental, 24-hour special. Figured we'd knock this out all at once." I emerged from the living room slowly. Marcus's smile faltered slightly when he saw my expression. "What exactly are you knocking out all at once?" I asked, my voice calm. "Oh, just moving our stuff in, making the transition smooth. We figured the guest room for now, but eventually we'll probably take the master since it's bigger and you don't really need—" Marcus." I cut him off. "What are you talking about?" His confusion looked genuine, which somehow made it worse. "Moving in, like we discussed?" "We never discussed anything." "Sure we did. On Wednesday when we got here. We told you the apartment situation, and you said we could stay. I said you could stay for a few days while your apartment complex did repairs. You said emergency repairs. You said a few days." Elena had come in behind Marcus now, along with Tyler and Elena's sister. They all stood in my entryway like they owned the place, comfortable and presumptuous. "Right. But then the situation changed," Marcus said, his tone becoming slightly impatient, like he was explaining something obvious to someone slow. "The repairs are going to take longer than they thought. And honestly, Dad, it just makes more sense for us to be here. You have the space, we need a place. It's perfect." "Perfect for whom?" "For everyone. For us, obviously, but for you too. You're rattling around in this big house all alone. Elena's a great cook. You'll eat better. We can help with maintenance, keep you company. It's a win-win." I looked at my son, really looked at him, at his confident smile, his casual stance, his complete certainty that he could reshape my life without my consent, and I'd just go along with it, because I was old and he was clever. "You didn't ask me," I said quietly. "I'm asking now. Dad, come on. Don't make this weird. We're family." Family asks before they bring a moving truck. Family doesn't assume. Family doesn't treat someone's home like unclaimed territory. Marcus's expression shifted. The smile faded. His eyes narrowed slightly. "What's going on? Are you saying no?" "I'm saying you never asked me in the first place. You told me. There's a difference." Elena stepped forward. "Mr. Morrison, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We thought—" "I heard you," I interrupted, looking directly at her. "Thursday night, in my kitchen, I heard everything." The color drained from her face. Marcus went very still. "You were eavesdropping?" Marcus asked, his voice sharp with accusation. "I was getting water from my own kitchen. You were plotting in my house about how to take over my house. Don't turn this around on me." "Dad, listen." "No." You listen. I heard you say I was too old to stop you. I heard you call me a resource. I heard you laugh about free rent, free food, free childcare for children you don't even have yet. I heard you plan to move in without asking because you assumed I was too polite and too afraid of conflict to defend my own boundaries. Marcus's face had flushed red. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And you know what? You were right about one thing. I am afraid of conflict. I have been for years, especially since your mother died. But I'm more afraid of becoming the kind of father who lets his children walk all over him because he's too weak to demand respect. Respect? Marcus's voice rose. You want to talk about respect? What about respecting your son? What about helping family when they need help? You don't need help. You need free housing because you don't want to pay rent. There's a difference. Tyler, Marcus's friend, cleared his throat awkwardly. Maybe we should give you guys some privacy. No, I said firmly. Stay. I want everyone to hear this. I want witnesses. I pulled out my phone and opened my text messages. Read aloud the text Marcus had sent this morning. You didn't ask if you could move in. You informed me you were clearing out my guest room. You told me you were taking my master bedroom. You didn't request. You commanded. Because I thought it was understood, Marcus shouted. Because I thought my own father would want to help me. Helping and being colonized are not the same thing. My voice rose to match his, and I was surprised by the strength in it. You want help? Ask for it, to request it. Give me the option to say yes or no. Don't just assume I'll roll over because I'm 70 years old. This is unbelievable, Elena said, shaking her head. We came here to what? To move in without permission? To take over my house? To treat me like furniture that comes with the property? The doorbell rang. Everyone froze. Expecting someone? Marcus asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Yes, actually. I walked to the door and opened it. Kevin the locksmith stood there with his toolbox, Sarah right behind him. Jerry Walsh stood on my porch as well, arms crossed, looking every inch the cop he'd been for 30 years. Mr. Morrison, Kevin said professionally, we're ready to start when you are. Marcus stared. Start what? I turned to face my son. Changing my locks. All of them. Front door, back door, garage, shed, every lock on my property. The explosion was immediate. You can't be serious, Elena shrieked. Dad, what the hell? Marcus started toward me, but Jerry stepped forward, his presence immediately commanding. Son, I'd stay right where you are, Jerry said calmly. Who the hell are you? Marcus demanded. Jerry Walsh, retired police officer, Mr. Morrison's neighbor, and right now I'm here to make sure this stays civil. Civil? Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. He's changing the locks on his own son. He's changing the locks on his house, Jerry corrected, which he has every legal right to do. It's his property. I looked at Kevin and Sarah. You can start. Back door first, I think. They nodded and headed through my house toward the back. Marcus tried to follow them, but Jerry shifted his position, blocking the way without actually touching anyone. You can't do this. Marcus's voice was getting louder, more desperate. We have a moving truck. We have all our stuff. Then I suggest you put it back on the truck, I said calmly, because none of it is coming into my house. We already started unloading. Elena pointed outside, and I realized that while we'd been arguing, Tyler and Elena's brother-in-law had apparently begun carrying boxes up my driveway. I walked to the front door and looked out. Sure enough, there were about a dozen boxes stacked on my porch and front walkway. I turned back to Marcus. Get them off my property, now. They're just boxes. We'll sort them out later. No, you'll sort them out now. Remove them, all of them. Where are we supposed to put them? Elena was crying now, whether from anger or frustration or genuine distress, I couldn't tell and didn't particularly care. That's not my problem. You brought them here without permission. You can take them away without permission. Marcus's face was purple now. I don't believe this. I don't fucking believe this. You're really going to throw out your own son? Your own family? I'm not throwing you out. You were never moved in. You tried to move in without asking, and I'm declining the request you never made. This is insane. What's insane is thinking you could colonize my house and I'd just accept it. What's insane is treating your 70-year-old father like a resource to be exploited. What's insane is not even having the basic respect to ask first. I heard the sound of the back door being removed, hinges creaking. Kevin and Sarah were fast and professional. I want everyone to leave, I said clearly. Marcus, Elena, Tyler, whoever else is here, everyone out. Take your boxes, your truck, and your assumptions about my boundaries with you. Dad, I'm not done. You want to talk? We can talk later, when you've calmed down and when you're ready to have an actual conversation that involves asking me things instead of telling me things. But right now, you're leaving. Marcus looked at me like he'd never seen me before, like I'd transformed into someone unrecognizable. And maybe I had. Maybe the father he'd known, passive, accommodating, afraid of conflict, had finally been pushed far enough to remember that he had a spine. You're going to regret this, Marcus said quietly, menacingly. Maybe, I agreed, but right now I don't. Right now, I feel more clear-headed than I have in years. Fine. Marcus turned to Elena. Get everyone. We're leaving. But the boxes, Elena started. I said we're leaving. Forget the boxes. You need to take the boxes, I said firmly. I'm not storing your things. You have 30 minutes to clear everything off my property, or I'm calling the police to remove it as abandoned property. Jerry nodded his support. That's well within his rights. Marcus looked like he wanted to hit something, probably me. But Jerry's presence kept him in check. Instead, he stormed out, yelling for Tyler and Elena's brother-in-law, organizing a hasty retreat. I watched from my doorway as they loaded the boxes back onto the truck. It took them 20 minutes of angry shuffling, hostile glances at my house, and loud complaints that they clearly wanted me to hear. Elena was openly crying now. Tyler looked deeply uncomfortable. Marcus kept shooting me looks of pure fury. When the last box was loaded, Marcus walked back to my door. Jerry stepped slightly closer to me, ready to intervene if needed. I hope you're happy, Marcus said, his voice cold. I hope this was worth destroying your relationship with your son. I took a deep breath. This was the moment I'd been dreading and preparing for simultaneously. Marcus, before you go, there's something else we need to discuss. I don't want to hear it. The $47,000, I said quietly. Marcus froze. The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might faint right there on my porch. Elena, who had started walking toward the truck, turned back around, confused. What? She asked. What are you talking about? Marcus said, but his voice had gone thin, reedy. I pulled a folded envelope from my back pocket. I'd been carrying it since this morning, waiting for the right moment, or maybe waiting to see if I'd have the courage to use it. The $47,000 you've taken from my accounts over the past 3 years, I said, opening the envelope and pulling out the papers inside. Bank statements, highlighted transactions, a spreadsheet I'd created tracking every unauthorized withdrawal, every forged check, every suspicious transfer. Elena's eyes went wide. What is he talking about? I noticed it about 8 months ago, I continued, my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. Small amounts at first, $200 here, $500 there, amounts I might not notice, mixed in with legitimate transactions. But they added up, and then I started really looking, really tracking, going back through years of statements. Marcus's face had gone from white to red. Dad, I can explain. You've been stealing from me, I said flatly. You had my debit card information somehow. You wrote checks from my checkbook when you visited. You even figured out my online banking password, which I admit was embarrassingly easy because I used your mother's birthday. I changed it after I figured out what was happening. Stealing? Elena's voice was sharp, disbelieving. She turned to Marcus. What is he talking about? It wasn't stealing, Marcus said desperately. Dad, come on. It's not like you were going to miss it. You live on your pension. You barely spend anything. That money was just sitting there. It was my money, I said, my voice rising. Money I worked 40 years to save. Money I was putting aside for my own future care, for emergencies, for the grandchildren I thought I'd be helping put through college someday. And you just helped yourself. Without asking, without even telling me. Jerry had moved closer, his cop instincts activated. Mr. Morrison, are you saying your son has been committing financial fraud against you? Dad, don't, Marcus said quickly, his eyes panicked now. Don't do this. Don't make this into something legal. It's family business. It became legal business when you committed crimes against me, I said. I looked at Jerry. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I have documentation going back 3 years. Some of the checks have his signature. He didn't even try to forge mine well. The electronic transfers came from IP addresses that trace back to his apartment. I'd done my homework. Once I'd discovered what was happening, I'd spent months documenting everything. I'd even paid a computer forensics consultant, a friend of Jerry's, to help me trace the electronic transfers. I'd built an ironclad case. You tracked me, Marcus said, and he had the audacity to sound betrayed. You spied on me. I investigated theft, I corrected. There's a difference. Elena was staring at Marcus now, her expression shifting from confusion to horror to disgust in rapid succession. Is this true? Have you been stealing from your father? It's not like that. Is it true? Each word was sharp, distinct. Marcus looked at the ground. I borrowed it. I was always going to pay it back. Borrowing requires permission, I said. Taking without permission is theft. We're family. That makes it worse, not better, I said, my voice breaking slightly. I would have helped you if you'd asked, Marcus. If you'd come to me and said you were struggling, that you needed money, I would have found a way to help. But you didn't ask. You stole. You violated my trust. You committed crimes against your own father. Tyler had backed away from the whole scene, clearly wanting no part of this. Elena's sister and brother-in-law were getting into their SUV, equally eager to escape. What are you going to do? Marcus asked quietly, and for the first time, he sounded genuinely afraid. I looked at my son, at this man I'd raised, who'd apparently learned that other people's money was his for the taking if he was clever enough to get away with it. I filed a police report yesterday, I said. Full documentation, every transaction. I gave them everything. You called the cops on me? Marcus's voice went up an octave. Your own son? You stole from your own father, I countered. You started this, Marcus. You turned this into a crime. Dad, please. He was begging now. Please don't do this. You'll ruin my life. I'll have a criminal record. I could go to jail. Please. I gave you so many chances to come clean, I said, and I felt tears starting to form in my eyes. Last Thanksgiving, I brought it up. Remember? I said I'd noticed some irregularities in my accounts. I gave you an opening to confess, to apologize, to make it right. You looked me straight in the eye and said you didn't know anything about it. You lied to my face. I was scared. You were caught. There's a difference. I wiped my eyes roughly. I loved you enough to give you a chance to do the right thing. You chose to keep stealing instead. Elena was crying now, but different tears than before. Angry tears, betrayed tears. How much did you steal? $47,000, I said when Marcus didn't answer. Over 3 years. It started small and got bigger as he got more confident I wouldn't notice. Oh my God. Elena's hand went to her mouth. Oh my God, Marcus. Your father's retirement money? You stole your father's retirement money? I was going to pay it back, Marcus shouted. With what? I asked. You can't even afford your own rent without trying to colonize my house. Where were you going to get $47,000 to pay me back? Silence. Because we both knew the answer. He was never going to pay it back. He was just going to keep taking until there was nothing left to take. The district attorney will contact you, I told Marcus. You'll need a lawyer. And Marcus? I paused, making sure he was looking at me. I want you to understand something. I didn't do this to hurt you. I did this because I love you, because someone needs to teach you that actions have consequences. Because if I let this go, if I just sweep it under the rug because you're my son, you'll never learn. You'll keep doing this to other people. You'll keep taking and manipulating and stealing until you either get caught by someone less forgiving than me, or until you've destroyed every relationship in your life. This is how you show love? Marcus said bitterly. By calling the cops on your own kid? This is how I show respect, I corrected. Respect for you as an adult who's responsible for his choices. Respect for myself as a person who deserves better than to be stolen from. Respect for the values your mother and I tried to teach you. Jerry spoke up then, his voice professional. Marcus, I'd advise you to go home, contact an attorney, and not say anything else right now. Anything you say from this point forward can be used against you. Marcus stared at me for a long moment. I couldn't read his expression, rage, fear, betrayal, all mixed together into something complicated and painful. Then he turned and walked to the truck without another word. Elena hesitated, torn between following her husband and staying to ask me more questions. Finally, she chose her husband, but she turned back once to call out, I didn't know. Mr. Morrison, I swear to God, I didn't know any of this. I believe you, I said, and I did. Elena had her faults, but I didn't think she was a thief. The truck pulled away, the other vehicles followed, and this time, when they left, it felt different, more final, more devastating. Jerry waited until they were out of sight before speaking. That took guts, more guts than the locks. Most people can't bring themselves to report family members, even when they're being robbed blind. I didn't have a choice, I said, my voice hollow. If I let it go, what does that teach him? That he can do anything to me and I'll just take it? That family means you get to victimize each other without consequences? You did the right thing, Jerry said firmly. It doesn't feel good, but you did the right thing. After Jerry left, I went inside my house and sat on my couch and cried for the first time since Catherine died. Big, ugly sobs that shook my whole body. Crying for the son I thought I had. Crying for the relationship that was probably destroyed forever now. Crying for the $47,000 I'd never see again, even if Marcus was convicted. Crying for all the ways I'd apparently failed as a father to raise a child who thought stealing from me was acceptable. I stood on my porch for a long moment, Jerry beside me, and felt the adrenaline slowly drain from my body. "You okay?" Jerry asked quietly. "Ask me tomorrow," I said. "Right now, I don't know." Kevin appeared at the door. "Front door's done. You want to test it?" I walked inside. My house, my space, my sanctuary. Kevin handed me a new key, and I locked the door from the inside, then unlocked it, then locked it again. "Works perfect," I said. "2 more to go," Kevin said. "We'll have you all secure in about 20 minutes. The house felt different after they left. Not just quiet, but haunted. Every room reminded me of something. Marcus as a child playing in the living room. Marcus as a teenager sulking at the kitchen table. Marcus as a young adult asking for money for the first time. Legitimately, I'd thought at the time. I sat on my couch in the growing darkness, not bothering to turn on lights, and tried to process everything that had happened. In the space of 4 hours, I'd confronted my son about attempted colonization, changed all my locks, and reported him for financial fraud. It felt surreal, like something from a TV drama rather than my actual life. My phone buzzed around 8 p.m. Elena's name lit up the screen. I almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won out. "Hello?" "Mr. Morrison." Her voice was thick from crying. "Please don't hang up. I need to talk to you." "If this is about dropping charges..." "It's not. I mean, I hope you'll consider it, but that's not why I'm calling right now. I'm calling because you need to know something. Something Marcus doesn't even know yet." I waited. "I'm pregnant." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" 6 weeks. I just found out yesterday. I was going to tell Marcus this weekend. I was going to tell him we were going to be parents, and then we were going to tell you that you were going to be a grandfather. I had this whole plan. I bought a little onesie that said, "Grandpa's fishing buddy," because I remembered you used to take Marcus fishing when he was little. I felt something crack inside my chest. "But now," Elena continued, her voice breaking, "now I find out my husband is a thief, that he's been stealing from his own father, that he could go to jail, that our child might be born with their father in prison. Mr. Morrison, I'm not asking you to drop the charges because of Marcus. I'm asking you to think about this baby, your grandchild, who didn't do anything wrong. Elena, I know what he did was unforgivable. I know you have every right to press charges. But please, please consider what this will do to an innocent child. A child who will grow up knowing their father went to prison, knowing their grandfather put him there. Please." I closed my eyes. "Is Marcus there with you?" "No. I made him leave. I'm staying at my sister's. I told him I need time to think about whether I'm even staying married to him. This changes everything." "Does he know about the baby?" "Not yet. I couldn't tell him. Not after everything that happened today. Mr. Morrison, I didn't know about the stealing. I swear on my life and my baby's life, I had no idea. If I'd known, I would have made him pay it back. I would have made him turn himself in. I would have never let it get this far." "I believe you," I said, and I did. Elena had always been more ethical than my son, which was perhaps why their marriage was so rocky. "Can we meet?" she asked. "Just you and me? Tomorrow, maybe? I need to understand everything. How much he took, how long it went on, what he spent it on. I need to know what I'm dealing with." "Where?" "The coffee shop on Maple Street, the one near the library. Does 10 a.m. work?" "I'll be there," I said. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness for another hour, thinking about the baby. My grandchild. A child I'd been hoping for, praying for, dreaming about for years. A child whose father I'd just reported to the police. I didn't sleep that night. Again. I was building up quite a collection of sleepless nights. The coffee shop was quiet on Sunday morning. Elena was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. She looked terrible, pale, exhausted, like she'd aged 10 years overnight. I got coffee and joined her. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Tell me about the baby," I said. She managed a weak smile. 6 weeks and 2 days, according to the doctor. Due date is late June. Too early to know the sex. I've been feeling nauseous for the past week, but I thought it was stress from the apartment situation. Then I took a test Thursday morning and... She pulled out her phone, showed me a photo of 3 positive pregnancy tests lined up on a bathroom counter. I was going to surprise Marcus. Make it special. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm sorry this is how you're finding out you're going to be a mother." "I'm sorry this is how you're finding out you're going to be a grandfather," she countered. She pulled out a small gift bag from beside her on the seat. I still want you to have this, regardless of what happens with Marcus. I opened it. Inside was the onesie she'd mentioned, tiny, soft, with Grandpa's fishing buddy printed across the front in cheerful letters. I felt my eyes fill with tears for the second time in 12 hours. Elena, You don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know that whatever happens between you and Marcus, this baby is your grandchild. And I want them to know you. I want them to have a grandfather who loves them. Even if their grandfather put their father in prison? She was quiet for a moment. I'm not going to lie to my child about what their father did. When they're old enough to understand, I'll tell them the truth. That their father made terrible choices. That their grandfather tried to teach him consequences. That sometimes love means holding people accountable, even when it's hard. You're a remarkable woman, I said. I'm a woman who just found out she's married to a criminal, she said bitterly. Not that remarkable. I slid the envelope of documentation across the table. This is everything. Every transaction, every forged check, every unauthorized withdrawal. I wanted you to see it all. She spent the next 45 minutes going through it, page by page. I watched her face as she recognized dates, as she remembered purchases Marcus had made around those times, as she put together a picture of systematic theft over years. The Vegas trip, she said suddenly, pointing to a withdrawal from 2 years ago. $5,000. He told me he won it at blackjack. He came home with all this cash, saying he'd gotten lucky at the tables, but he stole it from you. Looks that way. The new watch, the golf clubs, that weekend in Miami for his friend's bachelor party. She was going through a mental catalog now. God, how much of our life has been funded by stealing from you? I don't know, I admitted. Those are just the transactions I can prove he did. There might be more I haven't connected to him yet. She closed the folder and pushed it back to me. What are you going to do? I don't know, I said honestly. I filed the report. The DA has the case, but I haven't decided if I'm going to follow through with pressing charges or if I'm going to ask them to drop it. What would make you drop it? Genuine accountability. Not just, I'm sorry I got caught, but real understanding of what he did and why it was wrong. A payment plan to actually pay me back. I don't care if it takes 20 years. Therapy, probably. Proof that he's actually changing, not just performing change to avoid consequences. And if he doesn't do those things, then I press charges, because teaching him consequences is more important than protecting him from them. Elena nodded slowly. I need to tell you something about why I think he did this. I waited. Marcus is ashamed of himself, she said. Of his life, of his career. He went to a good college, had all this potential, and he ended up in middle management at a logistics company making $65,000 a year. Which is fine, which is a good salary. But it's not what he thought his life would be. It's not what he told everyone it would be. And he's been trying to maintain this image of success that doesn't match reality. By stealing from me. By stealing from you. By living beyond our means. By pretending to be more successful than he is. The apartment we were living in? We couldn't afford it. He insisted on it because it was in the right neighborhood, because his college friends lived nearby. We've been drowning in debt for 3 years. And instead of being honest with me, instead of downsizing, instead of adjusting expectations, he just stole from you to maintain the lie. Did you know about the debt? Some of it, not all of it. Marcus handles our finances. I should have been more involved, but I trusted him. She laughed bitterly. Clearly a mistake. What are you going to do? I asked. About the marriage? I don't know. A week ago I would have said we were solid. Not perfect, but solid. Now I don't know who I'm married to. The man I thought I knew wouldn't steal from his father. Wouldn't lie to my face for 3 years. Wouldn't risk his child's future for what? Status symbols and Vegas trips? You don't have to decide right now. I know, but I have to decide soon. Before I'm too far along. Before it gets even more complicated. She took a shaky breath. Part of me wants to leave him immediately, file for divorce, raise this baby alone, start fresh. But part of me thinks I owe it to this child to at least try. To give Marcus a chance to change, to be better, to be the man I thought he was. Those are both valid choices, I said. Which one would you want me to make? If you could choose? I can't choose for you. This is your life, your marriage, your decision. But I will say this. Don't stay just because of the baby. Children are resilient. They can handle divorce. What they can't handle is growing up in a home filled with resentment and mistrust, and the ghost of betrayal hanging over everything. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Thank you for meeting me, for being honest, for not hating me along with Marcus. I could never hate you, Elena. You didn't do anything wrong. I married a man who steals from his father. That feels like something wrong. You married a man you thought was honest. That's not your fault. We sat together for a while longer, not talking, just existing in shared grief for the family that had imploded in the span of a single day. Finally, Elena stood. I should go. My sister is waiting. She wants to make sure I'm okay. Elena, I called as she was leaving. Take care of yourself, and that baby. Regardless of what happens with Marcus, that child deserves a healthy, happy mother. I'll try, she said. And Mr. Morrison, I really am sorry. For everything. After she left, I sat alone with my coffee and the tiny onesie, wondering how we'd gotten here, wondering if there was any way back. My phone started buzzing around 6 p.m., messages coming in rapid succession. Marcus, I can't believe you actually did that. Marcus, do you have any idea what you just cost us? Marcus, the truck rental was $300. We had to pay Tyler and Dave for their time. We have nowhere to go. Marcus, all because you couldn't just be a decent father for once. Marcus, Mom would be ashamed of you. That last one stung, mainly because it was exactly what I'd been afraid he'd say, the weapon he'd kept in reserve for maximum damage. Before I could respond, another text came through, from Tyler, of all people. Tyler, Mr. Morrison, it's Tyler. Can I call you? It's important, about Marcus. I stared at that message, confused. Tyler had seemed eager to escape earlier. Why would he want to talk now? Me. Okay. My phone rang within seconds. Mr. Morrison? Tyler's voice was tense. I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to tell you something about Marcus. Something I think you should know before you decide what to do about the charges. Go on. He's been doing it at work too. The stealing, I mean. From the company. I felt my stomach drop. What? I work with him at Jensen Logistics. We're in the same department. I've known for about 6 months that something was off. Expense reports that didn't match up, petty cash that went missing, equipment that was ordered but never arrived. I couldn't prove it was Marcus, but I had suspicions. Why are you telling me this? Because today, when you mentioned the forged checks and the bank fraud, it clicked. The way he's been stealing from you is exactly the same pattern as what's been happening at work. Small amounts, spread out, hoping no one notices. And I think he's about to get caught there too. Our new CFO started an audit 2 weeks ago. If they find what I think they're going to find, Marcus is screwed. I sat down heavily. How much? From work? I don't know for sure, but based on the discrepancies I've noticed, probably $20,000 to $30,000 over the past year? Maybe more? Jesus Christ. Yeah, Mr. Morrison, I like you. You've always been nice to me when I've been around, and I don't want to see you get blindsided by this. If Marcus gets arrested for workplace embezzlement on top of what he did to you, it's going to be national news. His company is big, the press will eat it up. Why haven't you reported it? Because I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to ruin someone's life on suspicion. But after today, after seeing those bank statements you had, I'm sure now, and I think you deserve to know what you're dealing with. This isn't just a family issue. Marcus is... He's a career criminal, Mr. Morrison. He's been doing this for years, probably. To you, to his employer, maybe to other people we don't even know about. After Tyler hung up, I sat in the darkness of my living room and tried to process this new information. My son wasn't just a thief, he was a patterned thief, someone who'd made stealing a way of life. I thought about calling the police, adding this information to the report, but it wasn't my place. Tyler would have to report the work stuff himself, or the company would discover it through their audit. Instead, I called Jerry. More developments? He asked when he answered. I told him about Tyler's call. Jerry was quiet for a long moment. Bill, I'm going to be honest with you. If your son is embezzling from his employer and stealing from you, he's looking at serious prison time. Not probation, not community service, actual prison, multiple years. I know. And there's a baby coming. I know that too. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. But Jerry, can I ask you something? Of course. If you were me, what would you do? He sighed. That's not a fair question. I'm not you. I'm not a father watching his son self-destruct. Please, I need perspective. Another long pause. If it were my kid, I'd give them one chance, one opportunity to come completely clean, to face what they've done, to start making it right. I'd tell them that if they confess everything, to me, to their employer, to the police, and commit to getting help and paying back every cent, I'd consider asking for leniency. But if they run, if they hide, if they try to minimize or manipulate their way out of it, I'd let the full weight of consequences fall on them. Even with a grandchild on the way? Especially with a grandchild on the way. Because that child deserves a father who's learned accountability, not a father who's learned he can get away with anything if he just manipulates the right people. After we hung up, I knew what I had to do. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed my response carefully. Me. Your mother would have set boundaries with you years ago. She would have stopped enabling your entitled behavior long before it got to this point. She would have demanded that you treat us with basic respect. Don't use her memory to manipulate me. You have your belongings in a bag. I'll leave it on the porch tomorrow. You can pick it up at your convenience. His response came immediately. Marcus, keep it. I don't want anything from you. Me. I'm not storing your things. Pick them up by Monday or I'm donating them. No response to that. Elena's messages started around 8 p.m. and they were different in tone. Elena. Mr. Morrison, I think we need to talk. Elena. I understand you were upset, but this has gone too far. Elena. Marcus is devastated. He cried for an hour. You broke his heart. Elena. He worships you and you just threw him away like he's nothing. Elena. We're staying at my sister's tonight, on her couch, because of you. Elena. You could fix this right now. Just call him. Apologize. Let us come back. I didn't respond to Elena either. There was nothing to say. She wanted me to feel guilty for defending my boundaries. She wanted me to believe that my son's hurt feelings were more important than my right to decide who lives in my house. Around 10 p.m., Marcus's friend Tyler sent me a message. I barely knew Tyler, had met him maybe twice before. Tyler. Hey, Mr. Morrison, it's Tyler. Just wanted to say, I think you did the right thing. That whole situation was weird. Marcus told me you'd agreed to everything, but I could tell something was off. Anyway, good luck. I stared at that message for a long time. Someone outside the family saw the situation clearly. Someone who'd witnessed the whole thing confirmed that my instincts were correct. Me. Thank you. That means more than you know. I didn't sleep well that night either. Every noise made me jump, half expecting Marcus to show up with bolt cutters or some plan to force his way back in, but the night passed quietly. Sunday morning, I put the garbage bag of their belongings on my porch as promised. Then I went to church for the first time in 3 months. I'm not particularly religious, but Catherine had loved that church, and sometimes I went there when I needed to feel close to her. Father Michael noticed me, came over after the service. Bill, good to see you. It's been a while. It has, I agreed. Everything all right? You look troubled. I gave him the abbreviated version. The attempted move-in, the confrontation, the changed locks. He listened carefully, then said, Love without boundaries isn't love. It's enabling. You did the right thing, even if it was the hard thing. How do I know that? I asked. How do I know I didn't just destroy my relationship with my son forever? You didn't destroy it. You changed it. You demanded respect. Whether he can rise to meet that demand is up to him now, not you. You can't control his response. You can only control your boundaries. I thought about that all the way home. The garbage bag was gone from my porch. Someone had picked it up, whether it was Marcus or Elena or someone they'd sent, I didn't know. They hadn't knocked on my door or left a note, just taken their things and disappeared. Monday came and went with no contact. Tuesday brought a different kind of message. Marcus, we're renting an apartment. First and last month plus deposit is $4,800. I assume you'll help with that since this is your fault. I read it 3 times, astounded by the audacity. Me. No, Marcus. Seriously? Me. Seriously, this is not my fault. This is the consequence of your choices. You're 35 years old. You can handle your own rent. Marcus. Wow. Me. If you want to have a conversation about what happened, I'm willing. If you want to ask me for help respectfully, I'll consider it. But I'm not funding your life because you're mad at me for having boundaries. No response. Wednesday, Elena sent a long message that I could tell had been carefully composed. Elena. Mr. Morrison, I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I want you to know that I understand why you were upset. We should have communicated better. We should have had a real conversation instead of assuming. I'm sorry for my part in that. But I also want you to know that this has been really hard on Marcus. He feels rejected by his father. He feels like you chose your pride over your relationship with him. I know that's not how you see it, but that's how it feels from his side. Is there any way we can all sit down and talk, maybe at a neutral location? I really don't want this to be permanent. It was the first message that acknowledged any fault, the first one that sounded like an actual attempt at communication rather than manipulation. Me. I appreciate you reaching out. I'm willing to talk, but only if Marcus is genuinely interested in talking, not in relitigating or demanding I apologize for having boundaries. I'm willing to meet somewhere neutral, but I need to hear from Marcus directly that he wants to have an actual conversation. Elena. Thank you. I'll talk to him. Thursday afternoon, Marcus called. I stared at his name on my phone screen for 3 rings before answering. Dad. Marcus. Long silence. Elena said you're willing to talk, he said finally. I am. I don't know what there is to talk about. You made your position pretty clear. So did you. But if you want to actually discuss what happened instead of just exchanging attacks, I'm willing to do that. Another long silence. Then quietly, why did you listen to our conversation? Why didn't you just come into the kitchen and talk to us if you heard us? It was a fair question. Because I was in shock, I said honestly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own son, planning to take over my house without asking me, talking about me like I was a resource instead of a person. I needed time to process that. We weren't trying to... He started. Yes, you were. Marcus, I heard you say I was too old to stop you. I heard you say you knew how to handle me. Those were your words. Silence. I was angry, he said finally. I was frustrated about the apartment situation and I was venting. By plotting to move into my house without my permission? I thought you'd be okay with it. I thought you'd want us there. Then why didn't you ask me? The question hung there, the fundamental question that no one had answered yet. I don't know, Marcus said, and for the first time he sounded genuinely uncertain instead of defensive. I guess I thought it was easier to just do it, to present it as a done deal so you wouldn't worry about inconveniencing us or whatever. You thought it was easier to manipulate me than to ask me directly. That's not... He stopped. Maybe. Yeah, maybe that's what I thought. Why? Because you always say yes. You always help. You never say no to anything. So I assumed this would be the same. I say yes when people ask me with respect, I said. I say yes when it's actually a request I can decline. What you did wasn't a request. It was a fait accompli. You decided what was going to happen and expected me to go along with it. I know. His voice was quiet now. I know that now. I didn't see it that way at the time. Why not? Long pause. Honestly, I think I stopped seeing you as a person with your own life and your own needs. I started seeing you as Dad, the guy who's always there, who always helps, who never has his own agenda, like you were just available for whatever we needed. It was the most honest thing he'd said in years. That's on me, Marcus continued. That's my fault, not yours. I stopped treating you like a person and started treating you like a service. And I didn't even realize I was doing it until you changed those locks and I felt like the ground had disappeared under me, like the world didn't work the way I thought it worked. It doesn't, I said. Not anymore. Are you really not going to help with the apartment deposit? He asked, and there was no entitlement in his voice now, just genuine curiosity. Do you need help or do you want help? I asked. What's the difference? Need means you can't do it without me. Want means it would be easier with me. Which one is it? He thought about that. Want, I guess. We can cover it. It'll wipe out our savings, but we can do it. Then do it. Stand on your own feet. Prove to yourself that you can. That sounds like something Mom would say. It is something she would say. She said it to me once about something else. I've never forgotten it. More silence. Then, I don't know if I can forgive you for what you did. That's okay. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for respect. Can we try to fix this over time? Yes, but it has to actually be different, Marcus. I can't go back to being the person you walk over. I won't. Okay, he said quietly. Okay. We talked for another 20 minutes. It wasn't a resolution. It wasn't a happy ending. But it was a start, an acknowledgement that something had been deeply wrong and needed to change. When we hung up, I felt exhausted, but lighter somehow.